Okay, so what we have here is the result of the behavioral risk factor survey. It's a nationwide survey where they call landlines and cell phones. The data we have here is from 2016, all the people that they get responses from in Pennsylvania. So we have 6,800 plus rows. That's a lot of rows to deal with, but as it turns out, the data analysis is not much different than if we had 20 rows. And let me show you some little tips here. So let's just take a column like age, for example. If I wanted to get some information on age, I could click on the D above age. That would highlight all of these things. If I scroll down here, I'm dragging that scroll bar all the way down. I can see that I've selected the entire column. And if I go down here to where it says sum, then after I've selected the cells, I get all kinds of quick information. So there's the average. I ask you to calculate the average. Right there it is. The average age here is about 52 years old. The youngest person in the database is 7 years old. The oldest, awesome, 97-year-old person still answered their phone and responded to questions about their health in Pennsylvania, so kudos to them. We can see how many data points we got there. We don't see the standard deviation here, so we're going to get that in just a second. We also don't see a visual chart here, although if we see this little star here and we hold over it says explore, if we click on that, what we will get is we'll get some suggested charts for our data. And often they select some pretty good charts. Notice we still have that summary statistics up there again. Again, we could see the average. And what I want to do, I want to click on that. They've given us a beautiful histogram here. Let's go ahead and insert that. If you click and drag out into the spreadsheet, it will often come. Worst case scenario, and right now I'm not sure that it's coming or not, if you hover over it, you can see this little plus where it says insert chart. If you click on that, it will insert the chart. And again, another way you could do that is go to insert chart. But we have this beautiful histogram here that tells us these 6,800 people suddenly in a single graphic. We can see how the distribution plays out. So here I would call these some outliers. Those 7-year-old, the 9-year-olds there, they're a bit of an outlier here because we have this gap in the teenage years. Believe it or not, these teenagers may have been too busy to answer the phone or perhaps too suspicious to, which is probably a good thing, to answer the question. Not sure what the 7-year-old was doing there answering the phone. But we have this little gap here, and then we have the data really start kicking in around the college age. Notice we have the majority of people that are answering are between 50 and 70, 75. So this is a nice, maybe a little like a bell-shaped curve. We have a little extra down here. And there we see that 97-year-old, bless his or her heart for answering that survey. I want to find out about these people. Let's find out, was that a male or a female? I'm curious. So if I go to age, I'm going to click out of this, and I'm going to grab this scroll bar, scroll all the way down. I've already sorted by age. There's that 97-year-old, and I see that they have a 1 on sex. And so if I go to the code book here and do a search, it looks like 1 is male, 2 is female. So let me just go back here. I'm going to just put that in as a note. 1 equals male, 2 equals female, just so I don't have to go back to the code book. So anyway, that 97-year-old was a male. Pretty cool. 97-year-old male answering the phone. So I still haven't looked at standard deviation. That's the one thing we need to get. Okay, so I'd like to just insert a column here. Actually, let me click this again, and then I click it again and drag. What I want to do is I could calculate the standard deviation anywhere. I want to go ahead and just calculate the standard deviation of this age column. So what I'm going to do is click on the E. That'll select the column right next to it. Then I'm going to right click and insert one left. And what that'll do is it'll give me a blank column. By the way, if you have formulas in your spreadsheet, inserting a column, your formulas will automatically all adjust. It's beautiful. So it's never going to mess up any formulas. You never need to worry about that when you insert a column. And what I'm going to do here is just calculate the standard deviation of age. So I'm going to put equals STDEV P for the standard deviation of all these numbers, then a parentheses. I'm going to click on the D here. That'll give me all the data. Now I could have just selected the data, but that would have taken a while to drag over all that. And then right parentheses, bada bing, bada bang. There we get our standard deviation of 18.4 for age. If I wanted to calculate the average age, by the way, let me just do it down in this cell E2. I could hit equals average D to D. So if I do a D colon D, that just does everything in the age column. Nicely, if there's any blank cells or any cells with text, it just ignores those. And then I press enter. 51.8, that should look familiar. Remember, if I click on the D, go down here and look at that average, 51.8. So whether you get it through the summary statistics, whether you get it through the Explore where it tells you the average, or whether you actually type out the formula, they should all match up. One final thing with pointing out missing values, what I typically do to find those is just clicking on an entire column, and I look at the min and the max. And if the min or max doesn't make sense for a particular thing, I can tell that it's a missing data. Or if I do have a code book, I'm doing a Control F to search, searching for income 2. So we have this variable here. Here's where I can tell what those mean. So that 7-year-old female who answered the phone, her income bracket is less than 10,000. That's a little more curious is this 7-year-old male whose income bracket is between 20 and 25,000. So not sure what's going on with that data point there. But we can see there that we have valid incomes up to a variable value of 8, which would be that they're making 75,000 or more. And then those 77s or 79s, when we click on that and we see that the max is 99, it doesn't mean that they're making a lot of money necessarily. It means that, where is that? It means that they refused to say how much they were making, and the 77s didn't know. So that's the way that you spot that missing data, is often just to click on the column, click on the summary, and just look at the minimum max. If they don't really make sense, then it's telling you it's probably a code for missing. So a really good question would be, well, what is the average income then? Because if I highlight it, it's going to tell me that the income level is 15. Well, that wasn't even one of our categories. The categories go from 1 to 8, and it's because of these missing data values here. So what we can do, if we hover over this G, get that arrow and click on it, if we sort by income, let's do low to high here. So this is going to put all the valid incomes at the top. Let me go over this column E where we were kind of using to do the standard deviation and average. Let's say I wanted to get the average income. Well, here I can't just take the entire column G, right? Because down at the bottom, I have these nulls and I have the 99s and 77s. So it really goes down just part way down the column. So what I can do, I'm going to select the first cell. Notice I'm in row 2 there. Select the first cell, and then I'm going to go over to the scroll bar and drag down till I get to the end of the valid ones. I don't want to scroll down just using my little scroll bar. That would take me a long time. But this, over on the right side, this lets me do it pretty quickly. and at some point I'm going to pop into the 77s there. And I might have to spin up and down a little bit until I get the end of the 8s. But here I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and as I'm doing that, I'm left clicking, and that selects everything in between where I first clicked, and then I held down the Shift, and I ended my click. So I'm going between these two cells, and I'm going to put a right parentheses there, press Enter. So my average income bracket here is 5.9, which was, if I go back and check the code book, that puts me somewhere between 25,000 and 50,000 as the average. Now this isn't a real accurate thing there because I was kind of using an ordinal variable, which I really shouldn't take the average of. Although, what could I do? The book tells us we could take the median. Let's just go ahead and do that. That is legitimate for an ordinal variable. So instead of average, I'm going to do median. And the median is actually 7. So 50% of the data that has values is below 7, 50% is above 7, and that would be between 50 and 75,000. So my halfway point, where I'm above half of the people and below half of the people, is in that category 50 to 75,000. That's my median income bracket for this data set among the people who have valid data.